everyone believes and how they think it ought to be. Oh, everyone believes they're not going to leave.
Hey guys, Miss Naylor here. We're doing Cred this week. It's on page 42 of your Roots book. Go ahead and highlight the root Cred and underline its meaning, to believe. We're actually going to start at the top of the page in that paragraph, something we don't usually spend time on, talk a little bit about where the word came from. So in the Middle Ages, it was customary for servants to carry the prepared food from the kitchen to a small side table in the dining hall. And you'll see that here. Here's the dining patrons, and over here is the credenza, the small table, where in front of the master and his guests, one of the servants would taste the food to show that it was not spoiled or poisoned. This side table became called a credence, belief or trust, and today in France, a side table is still called a credence, and in Italy, a credenza. Today in the US, a side table is sometimes called a credenza. Our English word credence no longer refers to our trust in the food we eat, but we still speak of having credence, belief or trust, in what we read and in what people tell us. And so our word credence, which is a noun, means belief, acceptance as true. And I like the sentence here. They should not have given any credence to the rumor. They shouldn't have believed the rumor. The next word is credentials. It's a noun. Credentials are documents that cause others to believe in one. Now, you could think of this as being diplomas or certificates, things like that. Forms that prove things or information that prove things. If you look here, we have a dog at a dog show. Dogs that compete have to have credentials. They have to prove that they're bred the right way to compete in their class. And then you also have doctors. If a doctor doesn't have credentials, we don't trust them very much, do we? We wouldn't really believe that they were trustworthy. Our next word is credibility. Credibility is a noun. It means trustworthiness. I put a little bit of a fuzzy picture of Mr. Stevens here because Mr. Stevens is someone who we think as having credibility. Let's take a look. This is the website of Fairfield Country Day School. You'll see that their motto here, where boys excel. Let's see how they have taken to heart Mr. Stevens' credibility. This article is posted on their website. It says a middle school boy. In his article in Independent School Magazine, John Stevens, head of middle school at Fort Worth Country Day, recommends to his parents where the wild things are, as a source to help them better understand their middle school boys. He writes, in Sendak's book, the protagonist, Max, who looks like a typical 4th or 5th grader to me, and his posse of beasts, quote, roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth, rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. In short, they behaved like a lot of middle schoolers I know. So what's happening here is because Mr. Stevens has credibility, other people are referencing him as a source, like an expert. And this is how I would use it. Because Mr. Stevens has credibility in his field, Fairfield Country Day quoted him in their article about middle school boys. A related word is the adjective form, credible, which means believable. Mr. Stevens is a credible source when it comes to middle school behaviors. So you can see how these words are very similar, but they're used in different ways. The next word is credit. Credit is a noun, and it has a couple of different meanings. Credit can be trust as financial credit. People trust that you have the ability to pay for what you say you can pay for. Or a source of honor as a credit to one's family. Your family talks about the things that you've done in a positive way, and they think others should honor your family for those things. So, for instance, we talk about a lot of the time about soldiers being a credit to their family, a source of honor. We admire them. The next word is credulity. It's a noun. It's a tendency to believe readily on too little evidence, or gullibility. We're going to take a look at an example of this. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Charlie Brown, Lucy, and the football.
Say, Charlie Brown, I've got a football. How about practicing a few place kicks? I'll hold the ball, and you come running and kick it.
Now we all know what Charlie Brown's going to do, right? He's going to say, no, you hold the football, and then you just move it. You want me to fall on my head. But instead...
See? Here's a signed document testifying that I promised not to pull it away. It is signed. It's a signed document. I guess if you have a signed document in your possession, you can't go wrong. This year, I'm really gonna kick that football. Ah! Peculiar thing about this document, it was never notarized.
So we know that because it wasn't notarized, Lucy didn't feel like she had to abide by it. And in that way, she ended up duping Charlie Brown yet again. So our sentence might be, Charlie Brown's credulity made him an easy target for Lucy and her football. And here it's being used as a noun. It's the subject of the sentence. We have a similar word here, credulous. It's the adjective form. It means believing too readily on too little evidence, or gullible. Credulous, Charlie Brown believed that Lucy would finally allow him to kick the football. You'll see I used it as a beginning or opening adjective here with a comma after it. It describes Charlie Brown. Our next word is creed. It's a formal statement of belief as the creed of a church. I think that you guys might be familiar with creeds in religious ways, though you might not realize that's what they are. So I thought I might show you a different example of a kind of creed. And the other creed that I thought of was, of course, a sorority creed, because I'm in a sorority. So I went to my sorority's website and looked it up. Something that a lot of young men and women have to memorize when they join a sorority or fraternity. So I think since you guys will be going off to college in a few years, it might be something applicable for you to learn about. And you'll see it highlighted there, the Creed of Zeta Tau Alpha. To realize that within our grasp in Zeta Tau Alpha lies the opportunity to learn those things which will ever enrich and ennoble our lives. To be true to ourselves, to those within and without our circle. To think in terms of all mankind and our service to the world. To be steadfast, strong, and clean of heart and mind, remembering that since the thought is father to the deed, only that which we would have manifested in our experience should be entertained in thought. And it continues, talking about the things that this group of women believe in. So my sorority sisters and I are supposed to live by these ideas. These are the things that we believe and that we agree to when we join the sorority. The next word is discredit. It's a verb. It means not to believe, to distrust, or to destroy belief in. It comes from two roots, dis meaning not and cred meaning to believe. And I have another really great example that you've probably seen before. Hopefully some of you have seen the show Mythbusters on the Discovery Network.
Carrie, Grant, and Tori are bonding as they find out if you can flip a car thanks to a rocket-powered ejector seat.
So on Mythbusters, what they do is they take a myth and they decide whether it's plausible or not. And what we generally find is that a lot of things that happen in action movies are not. They discredit them at the end because they prove that they aren't real.
Good news.
Now, I'm not a super spy, but I think I've identified a major problem with the ejector seat concept, and that is filling the entire car with flame. Now, that was just the bare minimum of rocket power that we needed to get Buster out of the car. So, bad guy, he'd be out of the car, but your good guy, he'd be toast.
So they've already proven that this myth isn't possible. You couldn't actually flip a car over with an ejector seat like you see in James Bond, because it would kill the good guy too. It's been discredited. This isn't plausible. The next word is incredible. It's an adjective meaning unbelievable, and it comes from two roots, in meaning not and cred meaning to believe. So not believable, pretty simple. And I think that the Disney movie The Incredibles is a pretty good example of something unbelievable. That you'd have someone who was so strong they could lift anything, like the dad, that you would have someone who could stretch their body in crazy ways, like the mom who can reach around the table and grab all the kids at once. The son who's super, super speedy, the girl who can create a force field, and then the little baby boy who I think can light things on fire or something crazy like that. They're completely unbelievable. They're incredible. Our next word is incredulity. It's a noun. It means a tendency not to believe readily, or a skepticism. Again, in meaning not and cred to believe. So you'll see these words are connected. When something is incredible, it's unbelievable. Where there is incredulity, there's a tendency not to believe. And a really good example of this also would be the story of the boy who cried wolf. So you have Aesop's fable of the little boy who keeps calling for the townspeople. He keeps saying, there's a wolf, and everyone comes running and there's no wolf. And he says it again and everyone comes running and there's no wolf. So by the time a wolf actually does come and he cries, there's a wolf, no one comes because they think that he's just playing again. So when the townspeople ignored the boy's cry for help, their incredulity was obvious. It was very clear that they didn't believe him anymore because they didn't come and help him when the wolf came. Same thing with the word incredulous. This is the adjective form. Not believing readily, disbelieving. From the roots in meaning not and cred meaning to believe. The townspeople were incredulous and ignored the boy when he cried, wolf. Our last word is miscreant. It's a noun, an evildoer or criminal. Mis meaning less, and cred meaning to believe. So less believable, right? A great example of a miscreant would be President Snow from the Hunger Games. He's the bad guy. One more thing before we leave this week. Note that a lot of these words are related, so that's why I made a point of making sure that parts of speech were in there. So if you didn't get those, you want to go back and make note of them again, okay? Also, many of these words are in pairs, so credible, believable, incredible, unbelievable. Credulous, believing too readily, incredulous, not believing readily. Credulity, tendency to believe readily, incredulity, tendency not to believe readily. That might help you study, looking at them as opposites of one another, okay? Good luck on your roots this week, study hard, and I will see you Monday. Bye guys!